For Beef Anxiety here. Welcome to today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing. Pause this video. Go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get into today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health is today. Guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. My guest today is a trauma-informed holistic practitioner, transformational coach, award-winning health/wellness journalist, who is also the host of the globally top-ranked Hysteria. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering your podcast right now. Speaking podcast, the one, the only, Hilary Russo. Welcome in, Hilary.
Holistically speaking, I love a good play on words, but that was good.
I thought it was great try.
I should actually start taking notes on the way people pronounce it, because it has gotten more comical every time I hear it. And,
oh my God! Yeah.
What did you just say? Do you even know what you just said?
I have no.
It's fine. It's a play on words of holistically. It's holistically, because like Hillary. So
yeah, I love the name though. I thought it was really interesting when I saw it. I was like, hey, that's a pretty cool name. I like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to screw this up. Here we go.
You know what's so interesting about that is that I found that more people are saying the word holistic now than holistic, and I'm like, oh, it's like become a brand, you know?
Right.
Like,
it's coming a life of its own. Yeah.
Right. So I even catch myself saying, and when I say the word holistic, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's very holistic. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing it myself. So it's working.
It is. It's really working. You know, the same thing with the, how's your mental health thing is a lot of people, because of me, say, oh yeah, well, I ask it because Pete asked it, like, oh yeah, my buddy Pete for Anxiety says, and then they'll all start asking that question to people. So it's funny to see how many people do it. And then the other day I got mentioned on a podcast, which a friend of mine, Justine, does. It's called Mentally a Badass. And they're talking about me. I'm like, wait a minute, they're talking about me? It's all so surreal for me these days, but it's great to have, and like I said, I find anybody I can bring in interesting, because they always have something new to add to the conversation of mental health in general. I'm just an average guy, and anything y'all can teach me is even better, honestly.
Well, I'm here to share. I mean, talking about mental health is my mission. It's what I do. And any time that I can give people tools to put healing in their own hands, which is basically what I do, I'm happy if just one person walks away with tools or techniques that they can apply right now just to be kind to their minds.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the same thing I said with this show. It's like, if one person's story touches one person, you've done enough right there. That's it, man. Because after that, they'll go tell 5 people, and word of mouth will start kicking up and things like that too. So why don't you tell everybody a little more about yourself? Basically, I know I've got this giant paragraph here I had written.
Sorry.
I'm curious about the havening techniques, honestly, because I find it very interesting that you're only one of 50 certified trainers.
Yeah.
I do find that really interesting, honestly. Oh, I would be. I'd be wearing that like a badge of honor right there. I don't blame you.
I do, and I don't take it lightly. So havening is a neuroscience-based approach. It's a psychosensory approach, meaning that it uses the sense of touch. We have different kinds of ways that we can heal and that we can support our well-being. Obviously, we have psychopharmacology, which is the medicine that people might take to support their well-being. We have psychotherapy, which is going to a traditional therapist, right? And then we also have psychosensory. And psychosensory is where havening falls, because that means it's using the senses to help you on your well-being journey. And not only help you, it has the ability to down-regulate you, to help you regulate your nervous system. And also it can de-encode trauma if it is something where you're supported with somebody like myself, who's a certified practitioner, and yes, also a trainer. And it's a very easy approach to use. It gets its name, because you probably have been like, what is havening? Havening gets its name from the word haven, which means a safe place. And Pete, we're constantly trying to create safe places in our mind because it's all about safety, right? When it comes to our
Mm-hmm.
mental health, it's all about that beautiful part of our brain called the amygdala, which is part of the oldest part of our brain, which is the limbic system, that is designed to keep us alive and safe. That is the one job of your amygdala. So, havening is creating that safe place and reminding your amygdala that you're okay, you're out of danger, you're safe. And it does that so easily. And it's something that can be self applied to self soothe for self care. But it's basically like you're washing your hands, just a simple touch like you're washing your hands. And that's what I'm doing in the video. It's just right here. I'm just showing like a simple, like a pendulum going back and forth, or how you just soothe your hands sometimes, which you might already be doing in your life, right?
Yeah.
Or it's like you cross your arms from your shoulders to your elbows and gently go from shoulders down to elbows. That is the other havening touch. And we need more hugs, right? That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
part of my, I use this as part of my Hug It Out program, which we could talk about as well. But if we give ourselves more self hugs, we're giving ourselves more nurturing, and we need that. And then it's also like you're washing your face, like you're putting lotion on your face or gently rubbing your temples or just touching your face. That's another area of the havening touch. When you use any or all three of the havening touches, and then you pair them with a positive thought, a pleasant distraction, something that brings you peace and calm and joy. It could be as simple as you thinking about a great vacation you took, or even as simple as counting to 20 if you don't visualize well, or singing a song because it activates the vagus nerve. Anytime you're doing a distraction or a positive thought and pairing it with the touch, you are releasing oxytocin, which is the love hormone. You're releasing serotonin and dopamine. These are the happy hormones, and even GABA. And then you also are producing more delta waves in your brain. And delta is your sleep state. That's rest and repair. That's where you're in parasympathetic in your subconscious mind. So you're able to produce more of these beautiful delta waves. I call it delicious delta waves. It, instead of being in like the heightened state of like gamma and alpha, like those fast moving brain waves, you're producing more of the slower. And that allows you to turn the calm into chaos. It allows the amygdala to not react, but take a step back and respond and not be activated by something that might be coming up for you, which could be as simple as, thinking you're in threat or danger, or feeling anxiousness, anxiety, right? Feeling
Mm-hmm.
stressed, not being able to sleep, anything like that. Or if even if it is a deep rooted trauma, it is working to de-encode the trauma, because it can also be applied by a practitioner, or a practitioner can facilitate it. As if we were on here right now and I was doing it with you, you could be self-havening while I facilitate the session, and help you be a detective in your own mind.
Yes. So my question though is that if it's so simple like that, why is it so hard to be certified? Because you're one out of 50 people. That's it. And over in the world, you're very rare too. Why is it so rare though? That's my question.
That is a great question, and actually the first time I've been asked that question. So congratulations for that one.
Thank you.
I think the simplicity of this technique is what sometimes makes people think, how can this be mental health when it's so easy, right?
Right.
The simplicity of it is that you can self-apply it to self-soothe for self-care, to build resilience, right? To build that resilient landscape in your brain. The to make it not to make it difficult, it's actually not difficult to get certified if this is something you're invested in. I mean, I have unbelievable practitioners working under me that are on their certification route, because what takes it what takes it to the next level is that it shouldn't be as easy to just get a certification. Quite frankly, there's enough stuff on the internet right now where you can get certified in this and that in 2 days. That's bogus, in my
Yeah.
opinion. If you're talking about somebody's mental health, if you're working to become more trauma informed, which not even all therapists are trauma informed, not even all licensed therapists are trauma informed. If you're working on a route where you're helping somebody on their mental health journey, you better believe it's not going to be a 2-day event. You better believe it's not going to be easy just to check it off and get a certification. So, to get certified is a process. It involves case
Yeah.
studies, it involves me as your guide, but it's fun. It actually, the actual training that I offer, a training which is 2 days, yes, but that's not certifying you. That's giving
Right.
you, like, if you took it, you could take it and still not get certified as a practitioner. You
Yeah.
could take the 2-day havening training and just learn the neuroscience, the history of where it comes from our incredible doctors who co-developed this, Dr. Stephen Ron Rudin. You can learn how to apply and the different types of havening that is involved, because there's actually 7 protocols, and that lets you know how you can use it in your own life personally and with people that are family or friends, not as a profession. If you want to go on and become an actual certified practitioner and use this in your profession and call yourself a certified practitioner, that involves mentorship. That involves turning in case studies. That involves working with a lot of different people to be able to become more skilled in this so that you are ready to be a practitioner, you know? And I think
Yeah.
that's what differentiates it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense though. But like I said, that's just to me, it was just stood out to me. It's like 1 in 50. It's like really wow. It must be that hard to get
Well, the
certified then, right? Is that not what it is, or is it time consuming? Because people want everything on the quick now. Like they want the 2 day time little trials. They want to be like what's his name, Dr. Nick from The Simpsons. If you really want to say kind of like that, like that patchwork doctor kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Because as soon as you said the 2 day thing, the first thing I was thinking is like, hey, everybody. Hey, Dr. Nick, that kind of thing. It's like, oh, God, no.
Well, we see a lot of that on the internet, right? We see a
Yeah.
lot of these
Yeah.
courses being thrown around, but I will say this. I mean, I do have a 2-day, like I said, but the 2-day is just to be more educated and learn the fundamentals of havening. And it absolutely is a fun and interesting course. And you walk away with really valuable information, like what I just shared,
Yeah.
the neuroscience, because I think knowing the neuroscience is really important before you even decide to go on the route for certification, learning the history, knowing how it was developed. I mean, I know when I dove into this, and I'll share my story because I think I was that skeptic too. I mean, I was havened. The first time I experienced havening was actually in a New York City bar. And I'm like, what is this? I need to know more. I was already a holistic health coach. I'm a health journalist as well. I was looking to add different modalities to my practice and see what resonated with me, where I wanted to fall. And that moment that I was actually approached and I had a conversation with who now is the CEO of the Havening organization, I realized I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I want to learn more about it. And then I went to the 2-day workshop, which was actually in person in New York. And I was havened there on stage by one of the co-developing doctors over one of my own traumas. And I was like, this is something. This is
Yeah.
it. Because this is one of those techniques that's a show, don't tell. I can tell you the days, for the days, like however long it is, how havening works, but it's showing you. And that's what we do in our 2-day.
Yeah.
And, being able to show people and let them do it themselves is where you're like, oh my goodness, what is this? I need more of it. And those were the words I said. And then if you choose to go on to be a practitioner, there's about 1,000 practitioners in the world, actually. As far as practitioners, yes, there are more practitioners, but it's actually one of those techniques that's growing in popularity. So people that are getting certified are health coaches, are teachers, are therapists, are doctors, nurses, first responders. I've certified every single one of those groups, or
Yeah.
just moms and dads that want to learn how to use it in their home, and maybe they're not going to use it in their profession, but they're becoming skilled in something. And it's something that you can get certified probably if you take, if you take your time at most a year. But I see most of my mentees getting certified within about 5 or 6 months, because they're doing their case studies, they're turning in their work. I offer monthly meetups, and I also offer a free havening happy hour for anyone that wants to come to experience havening with me as your guide, to see if it's something that's even of interest to you. The the 50 of us who are trainers at this point are those who have been handpicked by the doctors that they believe are the next generation of teachers to certify these practitioners. And that's really something I take very seriously, because that's a responsibility, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think about it, you don't want them to be out there not certifying the correct way. You want them to actually put the work in. Like you said,
That's
you
it.
can't be a 2 day course, and then you're certified. We're not just handing them out like we're handing Cracker Jack prizes out, and things like that. So my question though is, but when you started in Having, was this before you started doing your podcast, or was this after that?
Oh gosh, let me go back and good question. I launched my podcast, Holistically Speaking, launched in June of 2020. I had been working on it prior to the pandemic. My good friend Alan, who at the time was launching his podcast network, the Broadway Podcast Network, which is really grown by leaps and bounds, an amazing network. And he had his own podcast as well. I'd known him for 20 years, and he said, why are you not doing a podcast? Like, you are a health coach, you work in health journalism. Like, health and wellness is a growing field in podcasting. And I remember saying to him, like, dude, man, how many more things can I put on my plate? you know?
Right.
And he's like, and he said, I'll help you. I'll produce the show. And I'm like, okay. He's like, get a mic, get situated. You understand broadcasting. You know what you need, good lighting, good sound. And I thought, all right. And he's like, and we can shoot some episodes in person at my studio in New York City, because I was living in the city at the time. And so I shot the first couple of my episodes at Google headquarters, which was super cool.
Oh, that'd be so
And
cool.
that was amazing. And then shot a couple of at his office in the city as well, where he had a podcast studio. And at that time I wasn't video yet. So I wish I was, because we didn't have video at that time. But I launched it with the thought, this is just a heart project, heart-centered project. I just want people to know more about how they can heal themselves and give them tips and tools. And 5 years later, here we are. And we dove into a pandemic, and I still launched it.
Yeah,
It's still, and in fact, I felt more of a need to launch it because I had time. Where was I going?
exactly. Yeah.
So, so I launched it, and then in that around that time, I already had been looking into havening. I already had taken the 2-day workshop, and then yes, going back in my mind, I was already a practitioner. So yeah, because I became a practitioner in 2018, 2019.
Yeah. No, that
Yeah.
makes sense though. I mean, because I was always curious that too, because a lot of people ask me the same thing like you did before we started, like how did the podcasting start? I was podcasting prior to this. It was just something me and some friends were doing. And then I got into this space, and little did I know how fast this was going to take off, because before they knew it, I was already booked at a weekly show, because that's the network I'm a part of now. It's Oracle. They came to me and said, oh, well, we're starting this new network. And I'm like, well, hey, I don't really have anything at this point. I'm planning on doing some recordings. So like, okay, that's great. Are you interested? Yeah, why not? Let's take a leap of faith. And here I am still. And I'm loving it. It's great because I get so much exposure. I'm on currently we're streaming on 4 to 5 different services right now. 2 YouTube channels, Facebook, Twitch, and Rumble right now. All can see everything we're talking about right now. So, and then I told you there's the audio side as well, which I have people at least that prefer that way. So I'm way down Spotify, on iHeartRadio. I try to get as much exposure as I could. And little by little, this thing just started blowing up more and more. And it's like, okay, well, I'm booked out to the end of the year already. Hey, let's see what about opening another spot. So we'll do 3 o'clock. Then 3 o'clock shot off to the end of the year. And I was like, dude, this is something else. So by December, I was already out to July of this year. And I was just like telling people, and people are looking at me like I'm nuts. They're like, are you serious? I'm like, dude, I can't make this up. I have people booked till July currently. And they're like, holy crap. I was like, you're telling me? I was like, I didn't know this was going to be that popular. And I've had like an eclectic bunch of people on the show. I've had musicians. I've had people I have a woman that named Stephanie Aycock who's making a movie about mental health, like looking at it from a different aspect. It was really interesting to see, but I just kept meeting more interesting people by the minute, and eventually, I met up with Keegan, which he's the one that set up the whole, Holocaust panel with Ben and everything like that. So me and him have interviewed together too. And, just kept adding new people, and I kept searching for more people. And beginning of the year, I opened the page up. I was like, you know what, let's see what else I can come up. Let's do some more recordings. And ever since then, it's been the greatest thing ever, because I've met so many cool people along the way. I've learned so many different things. I literally had an hour-long conversation with somebody about negative self-talk, and you could just watch us going back and forth the whole time. She's talking on the neurological side, breaking it down so I can understand it. I'm responding to her, and we're having a great conversation, and it's so interesting how many people are interested in the show. And everybody's like all the time, like, oh, when can I come on? When can I come tell my story? And I do that too. I let people come on, share their own stories, because I've met some interesting characters along the way. Like I've had
and we all have a story, right? We all have a story. I mean, when I, for me, look, I mean, I have the Holistically Speaking brand. I come from a world of media. I spent 30 years and still am. I'm a health journalist. I cover health stories. And for years, I was a news anchor. I was on.
Oh, really? A news anchor, huh? Get out of it. That's awesome.
I was a news anchor, and I was on the news desk during 9/11, so that really opened my space to what's going on? Because I didn't know how to regulate my nervous system. I didn't even understand what regulation of nervous system was back then. I
Right.
mean, we're talking, 20 plus years ago. I was a young news anchor on a desk. I didn't know where my family was because I was from New York, but I was living somewhere out, in the South at that point. Where was I? I was in Louisiana
That'd
working
be
in an
crazy though. You were on the desk while 9/11 was happening. Were you family members close to where the Trade Center was?
So I'm from New York. So
Okay.
my entire family, or most of my family, my dad, my mom were in the New York area. And I remember I was getting ready to go to work because I had to be there at 9 a.m. for our morning assignment desk meeting. I was living in Louisiana at the time.
Oh, okay.
I was also living on a military base at the time because I was married at the time
Oh,
to
okay.
a Air Force officer. And I remember getting ready for work and my dad called me at like 8:50 something, whenever the first plane hit, right? And he goes, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm getting ready for work, Dad. Where do you think I am?" My
Right.
schedule. And he goes, "You need to turn on the TV right now and you need to get your ass to work." And that's what he said to me. And I was
Oh,
like, "Why?" I mean, I always had the TV on my station. I was working at an NBC
yeah.
station. So I hear Katie and Matt in the background because they were the Today Show hosts at the time. And I turned it on. I was like, "What is this?" And I see the tower and plumings of smoke. And he goes, "Something just happened in the city. I'm safe, but get to work." And I was at work probably within 5 minutes. I
Oh,
mean,
I
I
believe it.
kid you not. I was hauling ass. And I got to work and I got there in time before the second plane hit, and everyone's crowded around the feeds, and I'm like, "What happened?" And somebody said something hit the plane and something hit the World Trade Center. So of course we're like, like, nobody knows what happened back then, but I'm in a news organization. I have a responsibility to alert my people, our viewers. So over every 30 minutes we were on air, every with whatever information we had pushed in front of us sitting on the news desk. And I was one of the main anchors. So I was on that desk just wondering what was going on, but where my family was, because my dad was in the city, my aunt was in the city. She wound up walking over one of the bridges and home. Like, she was one of those people because she was working downtown in the financial district. And my dad, fortunately, was not there. But let me tell you, the day my father told me later, he was supposed to be in the North Tower that day.
Oh
Oh my
man.
gosh. This story always gives me chills. My dad was supposed to be in the North Tower that day for a deposition because he was a attorney. And the other attorney got sick and said, "We have to reschedule." My father would have never made it out alive. He was an
Yeah.
amputee. He was, older man. It would have not been a good day
Yeah.
for the
No, I
Russo
believe it.
family. Right. So that led me to really, like, that shifted something in me. First of all, I didn't want to always tell death and destruction stories.
Yeah.
I'd already been thinking, like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Do I want to stay in this industry? Because I just didn't like that it was all about doom and gloom. But I
Yeah.
felt we had a responsibility. And I was already leaving my station. I already had put in my 2 week notice because a month later I'd be moving to another Air Force base because I was married at the time. And that base was pretty much in the spotlight because at the time President Bush was president, and he flew from Florida to our base as after he read to the kids in kindergarten. He was reading to kids when he found out, right? And he flew from Florida to Louisiana. So my base was on lockdown. So there was so much connection going on. And meanwhile, I couldn't even get back on my base to where I lived because it was on lockdown, and I just stayed out where I was working because I was on clock 24/7, right? So that really opened up a pathway for me to figure out what is happening. And from that, once you I started doing the inner work, really. And what do I want to do? I want to help people. I want to talk about more stories that are inspiring.
Yeah.
So after leaving my station, uh, because I had to, we were moving, I really started doing more health related news. I was somebody that was seen in that area because that's the kind of stories. Those are the kind of stories I want to tell. And then when I wound up moving to New York, when I was on my own, I realized this is an area that I want to research more. I want to work on my mental health and I want to help others. And then I fell into holistic health. I wound up working with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is the largest health coaching school in the world. And from that, it just was like life was a falling into. Havening came in my lap, and here I am, still doing the health journalism, but also I have a private practice and I train people to get certified so that they understand that when you're feeling burnout, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling your feelings, it might not be that you experience, it might not be your own. Like what happened on 9/11 or even the pandemic could also be secondary traumatic stress. You're
Yeah.
feeling what you're seeing others are experiencing, plus your own. So it's understanding how to see what's been compartmentalized and like be a detective of your own story, you know?
Yeah. No, I
So,
agree 100% with that. I'm still just trying to process the fact you were on the desk when 9/11 happened. I can remember to the date. I was in high school. What was it? Either sophomore or junior year, one of the two. I can't remember the exact. I'd have to look at the exact date, but it was right there. I remember them turning on, "Hey, something happened." And they turn on these. They had all the video monitors in the school because we were a little more high tech than everybody else was at the time. And it was like you're just watching it as the second plane hit because we missed the first one. And then when the first one hit, somebody came in and started telling our teacher something was wrong, and he's like, "Okay." He goes, "All right, everybody just stay calm," because they came in real quick and they left real fast, and we're like, "What's going on?" He goes, hold on, there's something going on. Then he went and looked for it on TV and he found it. And we were sitting there watching it. It's the second plane made impact with the building. And I was just like, what is going on? And it's just crazy to watch because you're just seeing it happen. And it's just like all that stuff's going on. And nobody knows what's going on. It's mass confusion. And then when the building started coming down, then it was just like, what is going on? And we all didn't know. We were high school kids, so we didn't really understand
nobody
what's going
knew.
on. Yeah, nobody knew anything at that point. It was just crazy to watch. Like, we're watching this happen. This is our generation's thing. Like 9/11 was our thing. Like, Vietnam was for some of the other ages, or World War II is for the other ones. And it was like, you're watching this happen and no one knows anything is going on. There's mass confusion. People are just like trying to figure out what's going on, what happened, and it's all just going everywhere. And it's just like, whoa, okay, yeah. And we didn't
Yeah.
know how to process all that. We had no idea what the after effects were going to be, or it was a terrorist group at the time that made claim that they did all that and things like that. We were just kids.
Well,
We.
and on top of that, you're not even fully developed brains yet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
everyone watching those images was exposed to secondary traumatic stress.
Yeah.
Everyone. And if you don't understand, and that's an area that I focus on a lot. That's why I work a lot with journalists, first responders, veterans, military. Uh, medical, anyone that has exposed to it, which all of us are, but there are
Yeah.
certain careers that are more exposed to secondary trauma and
Mm-hmm.
secondary traumatic stress, compassion fatigue, because what that is that's actually feeling the duress of somebody else's upset that or trauma that they're being exposed to first, like primarily,
Yeah.
and you're taking it in, and your amygdala, because it doesn't understand time and space, it has no clue that it's going through it, or it's just watching it on TV, or it witnessed a car wreck outside and it thinks it's happening to you. Why do you think your body reacts when it slams on the brakes because you see something off in the distance that has nothing to do with you? It's doing its job is what it's
Yeah.
doing. So like when you're watching those images, or say you're watching a horror flick or something, you jump back, you cover your eyes, you're doing those actions because it's cognitive, it's autonomic, it is somatic, and it's emotional that you're feeling. Like that's what makes up a traumatic encoding. So your amygdala is just doing its job, and it is going to react a lot faster than that part of your brain that is the thinking brain. And the thinking brain is going to be taking its time figuring things out, what do we do next? And the amygdala's like, get out of the way, I gotta keep you alive and safe. So
Right.
the good thing is it's doing its job. The second thing that's your responsibility is to build a better relationship with your amygdala, to let it know it's not in danger. And that's where havening can really come in, because just by doing that simple havening touch, just by telling yourself, I'm okay, just by distracting yourself from whatever it is that's causing you anxiety or upset, or you're triggered by something, or you're overwhelmed by something, just by doing this self-soothing approach, you are self-regulating and you're building a more resilient landscape to your brain. right? And
Hmm.
letting, we call her Amy in the world of havening, Amy the amygdala, letting Amy know you're safe, you're okay, your haven, which is basically your only piece of real estate you own is in your brain. Your haven in your mind is safe, right? That's what you want to create. And we can do this so easily, but we make it think like it's so hard to do it. You know,
Yeah.
it's so hard for us to feel better. It's so hard for us to be okay. And if you just give yourself the opportunity to build a better relationship with your brain, and know that you can change your thoughts, moods, behaviors, and habits, and know that you can rewire, because neuroplasticity is a thing
Hmm.
and it's science. You can create new neural pathways by doing things more and more in this direction. It's almost like creating a path. If you're walking on a trail, the more people walk on that trail, the more it becomes a path. That's what you're doing in your brain by creating those new neural pathways. And havening allows you to do that simply, like so simplistically and with such ease. And honestly, it feels nice to nurture yourself,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense,
you know?
100%. And it's so easy too, like you said. All it's a simple, just something like this, and and then all, and it's like all it is just that's all it is. It's all it takes. And people, I think, like to over complex things just because they just want to. Everybody's they want it this moment now, want to figure this quick. But it's like, hey man, just take 2 seconds and just kind of like self-soothe yourself. And as you said,
Self-soothe.
you start building your new pathways and start training your brain essentially to understand not to react so fast to things like that. So
And if people are curious about it, Pete, I offer, like I mentioned, I have a free Havening happy hour that I do online every month. Every month. In fact, as this is recording and we're out there live for those folks watching right now, my next one is coming up. You know, I do it towards the end of every month, and if you come, I'm guiding you in a Havening experience and teaching you briefly how to do this. You know, bring something to mind that might be causing you a little upset. Nothing major, nothing traumatic, because I don't do trauma working group. That's not
yeah, I don't
that's
think that'd be
first of
ideal
all, no,
anyways.
not responsible and not ethical. But I can show you how to use this tool in your everyday. And I share a little bit of the neuroscience and a little bit of the history, but it's not like doing my 2 day. This is just an hour to be in the presence of someone who can support you. And I've been doing this since the first week of the pandemic. I've been doing the Havening happy hours as my gift to the world to share how Havening works, because sometimes people are like, I still don't get it. And again, it's a show, don't tell. So
Yeah.
come to a Havening happy hour, register and join me. It's super easy. And then when you're in the space at this beautiful free event, which other people are coming to, you can experience what it's like knowing that you're in a supportive group, and it's live, it's online, and very easy. And just going to hilaryrusso.com/events, you'll see the Havening happy hour for that month, and just come and join us.
Oh, I'm down. I'm definitely going to check it out for sure.
You should.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I am. I'm really interested to see. I'm really interested to experience it. Like you said, it's more of an experience versus trying to show somebody it. And I'm definitely consider me signing up as soon as we're done with this. I'm going
Come
over there
on.
signing up. I'm down. I want to know more. Like I said, I am so intrigued by everything I've learned in this space so far. Like whether it's energy or it's holistic or all these other things are just so fascinating to me. And the more I learn, the more I'm fascinated to go on more rabbit holes of stuff. And it's more intriguing by the minute because it's like, this is something new. Like, hey, this could be something I could use, or I could give it help somebody else. Like, hey, listen, why don't you try something I learned? Why don't you try this? And it's fun to
Mhm.
teach other people stuff too, because they're like, oh, that's so cool. And I could like, hey, I had this guest Hilary on, this is what she does, and I could direct them to your site. And like, I always love to refer people places. I'm good at connecting people and things like that. So I've always loved like telling people, because I'll go experience it myself and I'll go tell them like, listen, I did it. You should go try this and see what you think, because why not? What else do you have to lose at this point? I'm pretty much at the point where I'm like, I'm turning 40 this year. Why not? At this point, I'm going to pretty much be like, Jim Carrey in the movie Yes Man. I'm going to say yes to most things because why not? I want to see what's going to happen next. I'm actually going to have my own dreams analyzed too on another person's show. So that'll be a fascinating thing too, because I'm very excited about that. I'm getting big into the whole star chart things and things like that too, because I'm kind of like learning more about that. That stuff more interesting. So like any new pathways, and everybody I meet with keeps sending me new different paths. And I'm like, ooh, so much more things to learn.
Yeah, definitely. And, I have a method that I created called the Hug It Out method.
Hmm.
And interestingly enough, Hug It Out, it involves havening, which involves doing the self
Yeah.
hug. That's just one of the approaches. But Hug It Out basically is in the healing that we're constantly doing in our lives. We have to have space for humor because
Hmm.
there's laughter in the lessons. It might be really hard to see that in the moment when you're going through it, but when you've overcome something, when you're on the other side of it and you look back, you having a little bit of freedom to play and find the laughter in the lesson and a little humor, even if you are going through it and you think it's a big thing in the moment and then later you're like, wow, I got through that, like that was pretty amazing.
Right.
Then you have to have the understanding. That's the you in the hug. And understanding means, who are you? How are you showing up in the world? If you had a walk-in song and you were walking on stage and there was a piece of music that always played, that's the you, who you are, your core values. Understanding that is really important. And then there's the gratitude. And we talk a lot about gratitude in this day and age, and for good reason, because gratitude actually scientifically is proven to help your well-being. And there's many studies out there about it. But I'm not talking about the gratitude you have for, I'm grateful that I have a great job. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the home I live in. Those are obviously really important things to be grateful for. But what are you grateful about what you bring to the table? When's the
Yeah.
last time you appreciated who you are and how you show up and what you offer this world? It's very hard for us to give ourselves compliments, but the more you do that and see the self appreciation, that's you choosing to hug it out.
Hmm.
So, we're constantly, we've heard this phrase before, hug it out, when we're like in an upset with somebody else and someone says, why don't you guys just hug it out? Like, you don't have to agree to disagree. Well, when's the last time you hugged it out with your own mind? When have you made amends with the negative self talk and the inner
Hmm.
bullying and
Hmm.
the constantly self-depreciation that we put on ourselves, because we really are our own worst bully,
Yeah.
and
We have
that's,
our own
again,
worst
that's,
critic too. Yep.
yeah, but that's your amygdala protecting yourself. Because if we thought everything was hunky-dory 24/7, if we didn't think there were any threats or dangers in the world, if we thought everything was perfect, I don't think we'd be on this planet right now. We would be attempting to touch the
Right.
saber-toothed tiger thousands of years ago, thinking it was a cute cat that we wanted to adopt, and we would have been gone,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
So everything's working beautifully. Trust yourself.
Yeah.
And the more you learn how to hug it out with yourself, which means listening to podcasts like this, or even holistically speaking podcast, or
Hmm.
reading books about self-help, or getting support if you need it with a somebody who can support you in your emotional well-being journey, or talk to a friend, or take a walk and get outside and get some
Hmm.
vitamin D. These are all ways that you can hug it out with yourself.
I agree. I agree
And
100%. Taking a
yeah,
walk is great for me. Like I have diabetes
good.
and I know my sugar levels. A lot of times my doctor will just
Mhm.
say, listen, take some water, take a walk on the block, come back, check your numbers. And you'll be amazed. Like your numbers drop instantly just from that little action of all you did.
Mhm.
I just went out, took a walk and got a little sunshine, got a little fresh air, or, call a friend and talk to them. And, I think a lot of people don't put self-care ahead of that though. And that was an
Mhm.
interesting topic we got into though with someone else I was talking to. It was just like it's amazing that people don't think about it because all you need to set boundaries first off, and a lot of people that's hard enough for them to do right there. It's hard to set those boundaries of listen, hey, you're not going to pass these, because this is for my own self, and things like that.
Right.
And I think a lot of that stuff people don't talk about enough, and it's. I always tell people the same thing too. Like, always put yourself first. Like, all these people that are always like constantly online doing all these other things. I'm like, listen. At the end of the day, the people that are supporting you will come back to you. If you need to take some time off, you go worry about yourself and then see how many people message you and say, hey, how you doing? That shows you who actually cares from the people that don't care. Just, oh, well, I want to control your feelings because you need to be on because I need you to be on. I don't worry about you, worry about me kind of thing. And I
That
constantly unplug like that all the time.
Good for you. Like, so you're choosing to hug it out. That's one way you
Mm-hmm.
hug it out in your everyday. You're creating healthy boundaries. And those who you want in your circle, that's another way to hug it out.
Yep.
Creating a container of people that you can trust and know are going to show up for you, but you need to show up for yourself. And I tell
Mm-hmm.
this to people all the time when I'm doing speaking engagements, when I am standing on that stage, especially when I'm doing my podcast, when I'm working one-on-one or in group. The most important person is self, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
selfish, that's actually
Oh, God, no.
selfless. And it's okay if you want to call it selfish, because you need to show up. I mean, I can't tell you how many first responders and doctors and therapists and people who are in service to others as a profession, they put 110%, if not more, into the work they're doing to help other people. And guess who's the most exhausted and the least regulated? The person showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are not putting yourself first, how in the world can you support someone else? And if you're a therapist, why not a little time in between sessions so that you can downregulate and not take in whatever your client or your patient is telling you? If you're
Right.
a doctor, take a couple seconds between. And look, we live in a sick care system, not a healthcare system. I hear it all the
Mm-hmm.
time from medical doctors who are like one after another, like a conveyor belt, especially if they're working for you know care practices, like these big care groups, that they don't even know half their patients because they're part of a network anymore, because it's almost impossible to own your own insurance as a doctor anymore. I hear it so much that they're exhausted. But it could be that, it could be the military, it could be a first responder, it could be a teacher, that take a moment to yourself before you walk in that door with that classroom, even if it's sitting in the parking lot in the car, and just doing a little self-havening, or just doing some mantras or I am statements, to just like build that relationship with your amygdala, that all is well, I am safe, I'm going to rock this, it's going to be a good day. The more messages like that you're sending to that beautiful part of your brain, the more likely you're going to have that kind of a day.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Like you said, I don't think people worry about themselves first enough, and I think it's not. And to be selfish, honestly, to me, I'd say the same thing. Be selfish, like 100%. You worry about you, because at the end of the day, most places, and it's the same principle I use now where I work. I honestly tell a lot of these younger kids that I'm like, hey, listen, at the end of the day, you got to worry about yourself. And I don't care what anyone says. It's just the truth. They're worried about themselves. You need to worry about yourself. Like, if you're sick, you can't come in,
Mhm.
worry about you. Don't worry so much about us, because at the end of the day, we'll get through it. We're still going to be here, and it's the same thing. People
Right.
are like talking about quitting their job. Like, oh, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. Listen, at the end of the day, worry about yourself. Don't worry about everybody else around you, because you have to put you before everyone else, regardless of the fact. And the same thing you just said, the same thing I'm saying, the same thing too. It's like, I don't think people do it enough, though. I think too many people worry about what everybody else thinks. And I'm like, stop worrying about what everybody thinks, man. Like, I honestly don't care half the time what people think, because a lot of times, everybody's got something to say about it, but then it's great because everyone wants to add input, like one time I got robbed at gunpoint when a place I worked. Okay. So as an example, everybody afterwards wanted to tell me, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that. Hey, listen, when they're holding an automatic weapon to you, you can come do whatever you like. When I'm there, it's a whole nother ball game. My objective is to get them out of here as fast as possible. You want to play, Dick Tracy or whatever you want to be, the superhero in the story, you go ahead and do that, because I'm not going to be that person. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to take a chance and risk my life for something that's not mine. At the end of the day, I have to put me first. And I feel like, that's the problem, is that too many people can't set the boundaries, or they let too many people emotionally, like I call it emotionally terrorizing people is what I call it, because they'll sit there and manipulate you to, oh, well, you need to come do this because I want. No, I don't think so. This is my boundary. And I unplug a lot of times on people. And they'll ask, hey, where you been? I've just been busy. I don't really give them a reason. Like, I'm just been busy, because at the end of the day, I don't have to justify anything with anybody. If I'm not there, I'm not there. Like all these people that see 10,000 invites to your phone. I turn my phone on silent at 5:00 every night when my wife comes home. So if I don't answer, it means I'm either busy, I'm doing something else, that I've zoned out for the day. That's it, I'm done. Or like the weekends, I don't do any podcasting, because that's my 2 days to just recharge.
Good.
And everything else,
Yeah.
and it's like people always ask me, oh, you don't do weekends? No, I don't. That's my time. That's my time to do something. Now, if I do something different, if I choose to do it, okay, it's different. But other than that, it's like, nope, I set these boundaries. These are the rules. If you don't like them, hey, I don't know what to tell you.
And how has that helped you since you've taken that approach?
100% honest with you, it's been great, because I fell into that category where I felt like I had to show up for everybody. I felt like I had to be there for every single person. And it's like, no. Ever since I put that silent mark on all the time, I'm just like, it's so nice, because I could look at the phone and see there's all these notifications. Okay, great. There's nothing important there that I need to worry about right this minute, And I had to learn that at first when I started podcasting. At first, I was always on my phone doing something. And my wife would get so mad at me. She's like, hey, you're on your phone all the time. And I didn't notice it, So that's why when she talks to me, I'll literally put the phone face down when she starts talking to me. Unless I'm answering somebody about something important, then I'll put it down right away. Because anything I'm doing is not that important. And I tell them, I'm like, listen, it's not that important. What do you need me to do? And I'll tell her all the time, hey, listen, I'm not doing anything important. What can I do? And it's putting the priorities in place and prioritizing things. It was hard at first because I was trying to answer everybody's message about, being on the show and things like that. And then I, found a digital calendar and I was like, all right, well, I'll let it do the rest of the scheduling for me. I'll come back to it later, things like that. But it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's hard because it's an addiction. Because once you start hearing that ding, 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 you're like, oh, okay, I got to go see what it is. But if it's on silent, I don't even notice it's there half the time. People are like, oh, I try to call you. Okay, well, then obviously it wasn't that important. Because if you know how to get a hold of me, then you know how to get a hold of me. If you're not coming through, that means that obviously I don't deem it that important right that second. Not to say that they're not important, but it's like some people need to learn boundaries of that, hey, listen, this is me time. So like, you can call, but there's a good chance I'm probably not going to respond or answer at all, unless I reach out to somebody else. It's a different story because I need to start making time for me. Because if not, I would have going to drive myself crazy at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're doing a beautiful thing by realizing that you have shared space, or even when Pete has his own space, by putting the phone down. We need to step away from tech more. And I think that's a beautiful way to create healthy boundaries. Also, when you're in the presence of another person, time is not promised to anyone. It is promised to continue, but it is not promised to either to you, to me, to anyone. It is a measure of currency. And if you're in the space with somebody, and why do you need to be on your phone? I mean, we see that so much with the next generation who have never really known life without technology. We call them the digital natives, really. When I was working in communication, I was a college professor for 10 years at St. John's University. And one of the first classes I taught was mass communication. And it was actually the first time I heard that term because, still the digital age was growing, and where it is now, 15 years, 20 years later, that term digital native means that you've never known life without a phone in your hand or a computer in your home. And you might swipe and you might read your books online. And these are all great things. Digital immigrants are those that, they could be the Gen X generation and before. Those folks that didn't have a cell phone, smartphone, a computer in their home, or, it was very limited. But maybe they're a crossover generation too. And then, there are those that are like in between. So understanding that this technology has not been around as long as human existence. If we look at it that way, like we survived without this. I constantly hear people like, oh my gosh, how am I going to, I need the GPS to work, or I'm not going to know how to get around. I'm like,
get an atlas.
Get around way before there was that system. Figure it out.
God, yes. That's funny you say that. My wife says she doesn't know how to read an atlas, and I laugh hysterically. I'm like, you don't know how to read an atlas? No one's ever taught you to read it.
Everybody knows what an atlas is.
You know what I'm saying? Like, my dad used to whip up that map book and just start looking at it. For everybody who doesn't know what an atlas is, it's a giant map book. It's literally what it is. You just look to what state you're in, figure out what high rank. You literally had to kind of do like your own Lewis and Clark expedition here, trying to figure out where you were. And we didn't have GPSs because, what is it? TomTom was the first big one that came out. Right as the Microsoft brought out the first computers, and IBM and all of them started bringing out these like computers because you couldn't do 90% of things we do now. Like Apple had the floppy disk for a while and it was just a black and green screen. IBM was the same thing. A lot of people were using computers for different things. Like I don't think anybody saw it going where it went to. And then when it started going that way, then it's like now you open communication even further. You had AOL and you had Earthlink and all these other random things that probably people never even heard of. MSN Messenger. Those are all new things to start messaging your friends. Oh, this is so cool. Texting was typed. You had to keep typing the button like, oh, God, these guys don't know anything. They have no idea what exactly it is that we had to go through back in the day because it was that bad, And it's like they go, oh, well, I don't have my phone now. Well, shit, we didn't have phones back then. You had to call your friends on the phone and everything like that, too, And things like that, too. And it's just like, it's so funny to see, but it's scary at the same time. You think about it because now the internet, you have more access to other people. Before it was you had to call somebody, you had to talk to somebody in person, or L Instant Messenger was pretty much the only way of communicating with anybody else. Now you got X all the way down to TikTok, all these different platforms that you could be on, doing anything you want, and everybody's posting like, well, hey, I'm walking around with no shoes on, and people are like, what? What's someone I hear about that? And it's so strange, like
Right.
the weird videos. Like if you ever go sit there and start swiping through your Instagram, sometimes the weird if my Instagram pegs me as a weirdo because there's some of the stuff that comes on there. I'm just like, okay, I'm done with the internet today. I gotta put the phone down now. There's been a few moments
It's
where I watch those videos. It's like, yep, I'm done with this today.
Yeah, and you've got to really take care of yourself. You've got to be really mindful. And as I
Mm-hmm.
say, you got to be kind to your mind. Be kind to your mind. Nobody else has that real estate. You're the only owner of that eminent domain. No one. And that goes back to when I was first sharing about havening, that it's a
Mm-hmm.
safe place, right? You create safe places in your life every day. The car you drive, the people you surround yourself with, maybe hopefully the job that you have, the neighborhood, the city. We're creating safe places around us to make sure that I'm okay, right? But the one piece of real estate we forget about is our thoughts that happen right here, and that one
Mm-hmm.
piece of real estate and the only piece of real estate you're going to own for life. So you better give it some attention. You
Right.
better learn how to do the work because no one else can do it for you. You
Yeah.
can't give power away. I mean, you can't, nobody can do that. People can impact your thoughts, but when it comes back to it, it is still your thought, you
Exactly.
know?
No,
So,
you're right, 100%. It is just your thought, and I think people don't realize that too. And I think you gotta be careful. Those people are good at manipulating your thoughts too, and leading you the direction they want, and it's hard for people because I was in a narcissistic relationship for 15 years. I didn't realize half the things that she was doing. It's just she was the slightest thing she would do would just turn the conversation the way she wanted to go, or she'd get me so mad. I'd start getting so upset that, oh, look, he's getting all mad, he's angry, he's getting and and she'd use it against you and weaponize everything you could do, and that's what they do. They go and they
mm,
weaponize everything you do. They get you so like worked up. They know what your trigger buttons are, and they'll start pressing them and things like that. Now I look at it and I laugh at my own self because I'm like, God, man, I can't believe I gave into this stuff. Like these
mhm.
taunts and text wars she wanted to get into, things like that. And it's just like I laugh at myself because it was so dumb to just engage it, but I was so enraged at the time, and I just didn't think about it because you see red, as they say, you just start going into complete rage mode and you start just firing back messages back and forth, or you're yelling and screaming and things like that. And it's like, where's this getting you? It's not getting you any place at all. You're just getting yourselves worked up for no reason, but the other person's winning the game because they're changing your own thoughts. They're your thoughts coming out, but it's because they're manipulating them to come out the way they want them to.
Yeah, so true. And it's up to you. You
Mm-hmm.
have the responsibility to reel it back in.
Yeah.
And it also is your responsibility. And I keep saying that because when I'm
It
people
is. You're
that
right. You're not wrong, though. It is your responsibility. You need
it is.
not enough people take accountability for their actions, and things
Right.
like that. They all want to blame everybody else, point fingers at other people, say, "Oh, this person made me do this." Did they really make you do that? Did they just hold your hands and puppeteer you to do that? No, you made that choice. At the end of the day, you made the decision.
That's the big thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
choice. Choice
Mm-hmm.
is powerful. So you have a choice. You can go this way and
Mm-hmm.
allow yourself to feel the victimization, like feel victimized. Yes, and you might have been hurt, and I get it. I too was in a narcissistic relationship.
Yeah.
In fact, today there's the humor in the hug it out. I can look back and be like, wow, that sucked.
Right.
That was rough. And
Exactly.
I didn't understand it when I was in it because you were totally manipulated and gaslit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't really fully understand what narcissism was back then.
No. God,
And
no.
then that led me to the work that I do. That was another falling into, and that was the universe protecting me. And I had a lesson I still had to learn. And I look back on that now, and I'm not angry. I'm not fueled with upset. I don't want that person to get hit by a bus. I don't want
No.
anything negative to happen to that person. My energy goes to two things. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
gratitude for giving me the insight to see that I can live better and be happy. And thank you for moving me into the work that I do now to where I can support people on their own emotional well being journey. And thank you for giving me the gift of humor to look back and be like, wow, some of
Right.
the things that I went through were ridiculous, like what I put
Yeah.
up with. And it's not funny in the moment. And look, let me reel it back a little bit. You and I were really fortunate to sit in on an unbelievable
Oh, yes.
conversation
Yes,
with
it
a number of
was.
podcasters with Ben Lesser, who is a two-time Holocaust survivor, 96 years old. I am so fortunate that I then had Ben on my show on Holistically Speaking to talk about his experience in the Holocaust. There's nothing funny about the Holocaust, okay? There
No,
will
no.
never be a funny joke. It is never too soon. It is never okay.
Yeah.
However, there were moments when he had glimmers of humor that he added to that conversation, and he did it in mine as well. And it doesn't mean he's saying that that didn't suck with a capital S,
Hmm.
and he didn't see atrocities happen, and he didn't go through atrocities himself, but there's a light and a lesson he learned from it, and like the gift that he says was the miracle he was given. And so he is not living his life in upset and
Oh,
despair.
no.
He
Ben,
has
no.
he's
Ben's message was amazing, though. Think
Oh
about it.
my
After
gosh.
everything he saw, his only thing was for everybody to love each other. I'm just like,
Right.
dude, what?
And
It was
and this
so
man has
blowing your mind.
laughed.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
he's
Yep.
laughed, right, and he's had moments of laughter and humor, and good things have come into his life since that situation. So he's not laughing at
Yeah.
himself, which we see that a lot with comics, right? A lot of times comics use their own stories
Hmm.
on stage because sometimes they're the most dysregulated people out there,
Right.
because they're making
Yes.
fun of
Yes.
themselves. Because what are you hiding? What are you not able to deal with? What are you
Yeah.
not approaching? Right. And I'm not saying all, because I'm very good friends with a number of comics as well, and comedians. But there are people out there that laugh, and rather laugh and have other people laugh at them than really deal with the upsets.
Yeah.
So like it's it's in a healthy way understanding humor. It's in a healthy way being able to laugh again and see things differently. There's a big distinction between you know, I did that. I used humor as a way to cover things up when I was a kid being bullied,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Me too.
And that doesn't heal it, right?
No.
That's just you like going along with the story that you're creating in your mind. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
good enough. I'm not popular. I'm whatever it might be. That's a different kind of humor than the kind of humor and laughter and happiness that is a human right that you can
Yeah.
bring into your life once you realize that you are in control of the narrative,
Exactly. No, you're right,
you know?
100%. And like I said, Ben was an amazing person to talk to. Like, just to listen to him talk, I was like, just let him talk. Like, he kept trying to stop him. Like, just let him talk, man. Just let him go, because I'm
Two
enjoying everything.
hours.
I was like, let this man go. For 2 hours, he was sitting there talking to us about everything. And like the one message, I'm telling you, it blew my mind as soon as he said that. He's like, yeah, well, the only thing I want is everyone to love everybody. I'm like, dude, after everything you've gone through, that's the message you have. Like, wow, that says
That's a mic
speaks
drop.
volume.
That's a mic drop right there.
Definitely. He should have
It's
just went like this and just walked
and
away from the camera.
and if somebody who has been through an experience, and I'm saying everybody has to go through an experience like
No.
that for us to learn a
God, no.
lesson, but if someone can go through such atrocities like he did, and still at 96, when this man probably should just be enjoying his golden years and his great grandkids and his family, which I'm sure he does, and he does
Yeah.
actually, but he's still out there speaking. He was talking about
Mm-hmm.
how on my show, he was mentioning that he's got a couple things coming up, and I'm like, really? Like, I
I'm
want to
not
book
shocked.
speaking.
I'm honestly not shocked. Ben was amazing. Like he's just got a passion for what he does, man. The whole website he's got, the whole digital him he's
Yeah,
got. You can go and ask him all his questions. He spent a lot of time on that stuff, man. He's just dedicating all his time to these things, to promote that message, man. And it's just awesome to see him go, even at 96, to see how much great message he has, and he still wants to keep going. It's like, Ben, you want to talk to me for 2 hours? I'll let you say whatever you want for 2 hours. I was
yeah,
just let him go. I'm like,
yeah.
just let him go, because I enjoyed what he was saying. It was so interesting, because it's like you hear about these things, you read them in books, but you have an actual person here who's been through these things right in front of you, telling these stories. And it was just like he was casually talking about they're throwing 10-year-olds into the fire pits. I'm like what?
Yeah, trigger
It's
warning on
just
that one.
yeah, exactly.
That
The
that episode is a trigger warning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It is available on the YouTube page. In case anybody hasn't watched it, you will see Hillary, you will see Tanya, and a bunch of other people in there. But we were all listening to this. It was something amazing to see, man. This Ben was just something fantastic. There's nothing. It
And
was on my bucket list of things to do. I just checked it off. I was like, wow, get out of here. I was like, there's
yeah,
no way
I'm
I would have
glad you
foreseen it.
did. Because
I'm so
that's
glad.
awareness. It's more than awareness, it's taking action. And I think Keegan really created a great space for us all to be in the room with somebody that was just so, just an everyday person like you and me, but really showed us that you can overcome anything if you put your mind to it. You
Yeah,
really can. Because I asked him, and I encourage people to tune into episode 186 of Holistically Speaking, because I took the conversation further with him and his daughter Gail, by the way, who basically runs the the organization, the nonprofit that they have. And tune into that conversation too, because we really go in deep where I learned so much from the first conversation we had, but being someone with roots and having those
yeah.
roots, I went a little deeper, and I feel like that it gave him the space and gave Gail space too, because that's an ancestral thing, and
Hmm.
ancestral trauma is real,
Yeah,
and so they both, and family matters. Like, how is this affecting not just you but your family, you
yeah,
know?
definitely.
So it was beautiful to have them both on. I don't normally do two guests, but that might be the second or third time. That was the third time I've done two guests in 185, 86 episodes.
Yeah, I don't even know
So
how many episodes I'm at now. I lost track. I haven't been numbering.
that's great.
I
That's
probably should go
great.
back and start numbering them off because God knows how many I'm at now. I think I've had like one or two times had multiple guests, and it wasn't too bad, honestly. And I'm also planning to do a suicide panel on May 5th. Is the
Mm.
plan right? It's May 5th. I'm inviting people to come, and we're gonna have a conversation. Obviously, I'm gonna issue a trigger warning right before the episode, just like the video everyone sees before these ones, just to let them know that this is gonna be a rough conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be
Mhm.
had. Let's think about it. I don't think people talk about it. What do people do when they get in that situation? What to do? And it'll be great because
Mhm.
we have a Dr. Kristen joining us. She's going to come and join us and do it. She's a behavior. I think she's got a master's or a PhD in behavioral science or something behavioral. I know that much. She's got I all her credentials and everything too. I'll have listed for everybody. But she was actually on the show too, and I had mentioned this to her that I was planning doing this. She's like, sign me up instantly. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get like 5 or 6 people in a room and see what kind of conversation happens about it and see,
Mhm.
like, just see where people are at because you're never going to know until you ask them, like, hey, what are your thoughts on this, and see where everybody's at because I don't think people talk about it enough because when they do, people either get nervous or they get worried because they don't know what to do when someone's telling them things. They don't know what to look for. Hey, your friend's making jokes about killing himself. They're serious. I think that's a warning sign. You need to understand that there's something serious about to happen at this point. You need to like take care of it. You need to start worrying about your friend or start watching them to see if they're doing anything out of the ordinary, and stuff like that. It just gets serious.
Yeah, I also think there's a responsibility that comes with being a mental health practitioner or someone that is working in that field to
Mm-hmm.
really, there's a space where people go outside their scope of practice, which can be dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's really I mean, because you first responders and people who are answering the 988 calls, which is the suicide prevention hotline,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the country, in the US rather. Like, for those overseas, I'm not sure what the number is, but knowing that's really important. But then also, those people are trained to know
Yeah.
how to deal and ask the right questions. And I think that's really, again, our responsibility to
Mm-hmm.
know not only what we're feeling, but when we're in a space where we hear those words, what are we helping or hurting
Yeah.
in our response? If you don't feel comfortable and you're like, oh man, that's, hmm, you should get help. That's, is that the right response?
Yeah. Exactly.
Because so having that conversation is important, but also having people that um, are very well versed in how to respond to a situation like that is also really important.
Yeah. You're right.
You know?
100%. No, you're
Yeah.
100% correct.
Yeah.
That's why I was. I was choosing my people very carefully because these are some
Good.
people that have experienced. Actually, one of the people is actually a first responder. She's actually she's
Good.
a fireman, and she's really young though. She's like in her 20s, and she's the youngest one on her way to be a captain right now as we speak. She's training for all that kind of stuff. So it'd be interesting to get her perspective on it too, because she sees
Yeah.
these things every day. Like you said, she goes out and sees these things. And I'm choosing very carefully, who I
Good.
include in the conversation because I want them to add value. Like we're gonna have a discussion about it, but I don't want it to be like off the rails kind of thing because it'll be explained clear ahead of time that this is 100% a serious conversation. If you don't feel like you can be serious in this conversation, I will disinclude you right this minute because I don't have. We're not. This is not what I'm going for. I'm going for to have a conversation that's uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's a conversation need to be had, but we need to make sure that we're all learning. At the end of the day, we have the expert there to help us. Hey, listen, these are the things you need to know in these situations and things like that. So,
Yeah, and it's just being really open and aware,
mhm.
and awareness needs to turn into action. I just had this
Yeah,
conversation on my podcast yesterday with a military veteran, and I'm very involved with helping. And one of my missions is helping military affairs and veteran affairs, and those who are transitioning or don't really know. Being in that line of work as far as being a dependent for 10 years. I wasn't in the military, but being
yeah,
around it as a family member, I saw so much of what wasn't being done. Like
yeah,
where was the support that's really needed? And still there's an issue with that. So just having the right support matters and the right language matters on how to
mhm,
support people, because
mhm,
when you are that dysregulated, when you are thinking about not being here anymore, there's a different dialogue you need to have with somebody.
yeah,
And that's really important to understand that. And it's a responsibility. If you can't help, you help that person find somebody who can.
exactly.
That's the same with if somebody comes to me and I feel like it's outside my scope of practice. I have people in my Rolodex, if that doesn't age me saying Rolodex. I have people in my my list of contacts to make
Yeah,
it more generic,
no, you're
that
good.
I will go to and say, "Hey, can you would you be open to helping this person?
Yeah,
Because this is outside my wheelhouse." That's another thing that I think needs to be talked about more in this day and age. We are in a world of coaching, and everyone is helping everyone, and everyone, and they tune into people's pain points, and there's a lot of fly by nights that are looking to make money.
yeah,
And I used to get really upset at that as I was building my practice before it blew up, and the pandemic really blew things up. There are a lot of really great people out there helping people authentically, but there are also some people who do not put authenticity behind it. And you can really hurt somebody doing that. So my responsibility is not to try to change those people and bust them and throw them under the bus or
no,
end their careers. My job is to be the best I can be, and the kind
mhm,
of people that need me will find me.
exactly.
That's the frequency I put out there. And if
Yeah,
someone comes to me that I'm not able to support because maybe it's outside my wheelhouse. Like I'm not a neurosurgeon. I'm not a, there are certain areas that I would not allow myself to say, "Hey, yes, you can work with me," because I I want those folks to get the best care they can, and
yeah,
I will help them. But it's okay to say no when you're a practitioner too.
mhm,
It's okay. Help that person find the right person,
exactly.
but be responsible in how you're supporting somebody else's mental health,
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
No, I agree 100% with you there. You have to be very careful because you don't, if you're not, it's not something you can handle. You need
Yeah.
to do something or help them find something or like, hey, listen, maybe we need to get you some help and find somebody. Don't abandon them. I think that's the worst thing that you could do is just leave them or like, oh, hey, call me if you need something. I hate it when people say that though. It's like the
Yeah.
90% of the time they're not going to call you. I hate to break the news to you. They're not going to call you. You need to call and check in
They
on
did
them.
call you. They
Or they
called you
did
in
call
that
you and
moment.
didn't exactly, but or they try
That
to call you and
moment.
you don't answer, or you're not actively listening to them. When they're talking to you too, they don't feel being heard. That's the other thing too. Am I not correct on that one?
Yeah.
So
Say that last part again.
I said that
You
if
got.
you're not actively listening to someone, like if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, Hillary," and starts talking to you, and you don't like, you're not engaging them, and you act like you're not even listening to them, they're not going to come back to you. They're going to, okay, well, forget it. Hillary doesn't care because she's not listening to anything I'm saying to them.
Yeah, there's a difference between listening to someone and hearing somebody. I
Exactly.
think I used to I used to teach that to my college kids too, because if you've ever watched the news, and I rarely ever watch the news anymore, and I'm very happy about that. If you've watched some of the people that are journalists,
Yeah.
um, they put a mic in somebody's face and the head nod. It's the
Yeah.
head nod, and I look at those folks, and not all of them, but I feel like in the with the all of the uh and this isn't just journalists, but I'm just using that as an example. The head nod to me says you hear me, but you're not listening. They're already thinking about the next thought and question that they have rather than really being present with the person. And you can tell there's an energy flow. You can
Yeah.
tell when someone is really tuned in. You can tell when someone is really tuned out. And don't be fooled by that. And for the
Yeah.
person who thinks that, they have 20 different apps open on their computer, and they're doing a million things while they're, just doing something like this or a Zoom
Yeah.
or whatnot, you can tell when they're not in it 100%. You can't, your brain is not going to allow you to do multiple tasks. It is an operating system, just like your phone, just like the computer. And if you have too many apps and tabs open, good luck processing. It
Right.
slows down. And if we look at our brains like an operating system and our body too, you'll see how good you are, and 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 how strong of a computer system you have when you're focused on one tab at a time.
That's very true. I think that's so true, honestly, because you can tell, and I don't, I think a lot of people try and do too many things at once. And that's where the phone
Yeah, well,
conversation came. Remember, they're always out using the screen or they're doing this. It's like, you're not listening to me. Oh, I'm listening to you. You're watching something. How are you actively listening to me? And that's
mhm,
that's why I do that thing with my phone. When my wife starts talking about it, I put it down so I'm actively listening to what she's saying. Because if not,
right.
she's gonna get mad, or But she deserves respect. She's talking to me. I'm not doing anything that important. I'm not doing something, not making, some $1 million deals or something right that second. It's not that important. Put it down for 5 seconds.
Mhm,
Listen to what they have to say, because clearly they're talking to you.
yeah.
Listen to them, hear them. Don't sit there and ignore them, because then you'll be like, oh, what are you mad about? I don't understand. I hate when people say too, what are you mad at me about? Well, I don't know. What did you do to make these current events happen? Well, she was talking to me. There you go, right there. She was talking to you. You didn't take the time to engage and actually listen to what she's saying. And you wonder why these people are getting mad at you, because you're not paying attention to them. Put down whatever you're doing, your distraction. It'll be okay, because it'll be back there, and your app and your game will still be there when you come back to it in 5 minutes, and things like that.
And also being open to the fact that you played a part in it, but what did they play in it? Like, why are they mad? You can't,
Exactly.
it's not up to you to figure out how they respond or they react or the character that they have or how they're showing up in the world. It's your responsibility to focus on how you act and how you respond and
Okay.
how you
True.
show up in the world and how you process the information. But communication is key, and especially in partnership. you
Hmm.
know when I talk to this is a big one that comes up because I do a lot of relationship talk with clients,
Yeah.
just because I don't know, I mean, we're in relationships with people every day, whether they're intimate or professional or just personal relationships. And and there was a real shift for me, especially as someone coming out of a relationship that was toxic and wanting to really be in something that was whole and supportive and loving and caring and nurturing. It's not just about what I want, right? Like I just said, this is what I wanted. But a really cool trick, and not even a trick, a really cool challenge or task. If you are one of those people that wants and desires to align with really having good people around you, a safe haven, right? We'll go back to the haven. Make a list of what you desire in your life, whether it is personal, professional. Make a list, and then you better be being that list. You can't expect from someone else if you're not showing up with that same list of things that you're wanting.
Yeah.
Make
No,
the
I
list,
agree.
be the list.
No, I agree 100%. Yeah, I think that's actually real
Yeah.
makes real sense. So you think about it, because if you're not sticking to your list, then how are you gonna expect somebody else to stick to their list, you know?
That's right. And you can never, and even if you make the list and you show up as that list of that which you want to bring into your life, you still are not responsible or have control over the list that you're wanting if they come into your space. Their list might match yours, but it really is still only about you showing up as the list that you want. And if somebody doesn't resonate with you and doesn't align with you, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Have a good life. You don't have to accept it because it's
Yeah.
about saying yes to yourself. And if we surround ourselves more with people like that, then you're creating a really safe haven in your entire life and things shift.
Hmm.
Things shift organically. You
Very
know, the
true.
universe wants you to win.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. I totally agree with you
So,
100%. That's fantastic, honestly. So, all right. Well, Hilary, we're going to wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. Well, I wanted to thank you so much for coming. I enjoyed this conversation. I really did. I was excited.
me too.
I'm so excited you came. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed this. This is the most engaging
Oh, great.
conversation I've had so far to date. Not to say none of the other ones didn't matter, but I just loved everything. I've been learning more about you and everything else about that. It's so appreciative that you came and shared all that kind of stuff with us. It was so great because now I'm definitely signing up because I want to check out the safe. I'm gonna have to check out the Havening now. I got to figure out. I got to try this and go for it. Why not? Because
Havening
why
happy
not?
hour.
That's right. The
Havening
Havening
happy
Happy
hour,
Hour,
priority
guys.
month.
Remember, and you go to where was it going again? HilaryRusso.com, right? And that
Yep.
you said, yep.
You go to Hilary Russo, HILARYRUSSO, 1L2S's.com, just /events, and you'll see the events I have coming up. The first thing up there, I always put the Havening Happy Hour first because it's continuous, because it is always happening every month. And
Mm-hmm.
it's usually towards the latter part of the month to get you ready for the new month. So I have one coming up this month. It still hasn't happened yet. If this is for those listening to live, it's actually in this next Monday. And sign up, join us. It's an hour of your time. We have some fun. It's a chance to ask questions at the end, share your experiences if you want to, and really be kind to your mind and self-regulate and self-soothe for self-care, and learn how to do self-havening so you can start doing it every day. And then if you want to take the next step and take the 2-day workshop and learn even more about havening, the neuroscience, the history, really understand how to execute the different fundamentals, that too is the 2-day workshop, which is more putting you in alignment with going to certification. But you can stop right there. If you don't want to get certified, you're just getting more information to teach you what havening is all about. And then, of course, as a mentor and a trainer of havening, there's always the possibility of putting these tools in your toolbox, or I call it the brain candy jar, and
I
using
love
it
that
in your
term.
profession. Yeah, I love it because we have, we hear mental health toolbox all the time. And
Yeah,
I have my brain candy blueprint, which is my new Substack. And it's an opportunity for when you think about your brain candy, these are the tools in the sweetest ways to be kind to your mind every day. What are you going to put in that? What are you going to take out of it when you need it? Sometimes you want chocolate, sometimes you want caramel, sometimes you want journaling, sometimes you want taking a walk, sometimes you want havening. Those are your different brain candies.
yeah,
And so when you think about it that way, that is you taking the power back in your own emotional well-being. So come to the Havening Happy Hour. We'd love to have you.
definitely.
Consider the training, consider the certification, and just learn something new for your brain candy jar.
Exactly right there. Couldn't say it better myself. Exactly. Learn something new. Why not? Exactly. Why limit yourself when you can learn so much? And she's offering it for you an hour. Why not take an hour a day? You know, it's just like watching a movie, about an hour a day, and you can learn something new, and you'll maybe learn more about yourself in the process. And go check out Hilary's podcast too. I'm definitely gonna go check it out for sure. I want to check out the latest episode. Obviously, are you on everything like Apple, all that kind of stuff too?
Everything. Yep, I'm
She's
here. I'm on YouTube under my Hilary Russo YouTube channel. There's a whole section of all of the podcasts that have been released there. I'm on all podcast platforms from Apple to Spotify. Everywhere
awesome.
that you get your podcasts, you can find Holistically Speaking. And
There you.
I'm really proud of the show. I mean, we're in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally. We've been doing this for 5 years now. It is, for the most part, weekly episodes,
Yeah.
and it's inspiring conversations with guests, varied expertise, luminaries in the field of holistic health and medicine, and even everyday people that are just sharing their trauma to triumph stories through health, healing, and humor, and what it takes to be a happy, healthy grown up, because that's really
I,
what it's all about.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, guys. And everything, all her socials will be linked down here below in the video, guys. Definitely go check her out, like I said. And I'm Pete for Anxiety. You know where to find me. I'm pretty much an X all the way down to TikTok. I'm Spotify, all the way down to iHeartRadio. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health